Something which I find very interesting in games is rewards. Most games reward you in a variety of ways as often as they can. A game recognizing your achievement and the associated dopamine hit is a great way to keep a player engaged. And it's a pretty important and wide-reaching element of a game. Breath of the Wild might be one of my favourite games of all time, but one of my biggest issues with it was how it ran out of interesting ways to reward you. It became clear quite early on in the game that 90% of everything you could do would give you one of the same 3 rewards, and all 3 stopped being interesting quite fast. A game like Hollow Knight, on the other hand, had an abundance of things to reward you with, so even when you knew you'd found something hidden, you never knew exactly what it would be, which made the finding of it a lot more exciting. There's as many different ways to reward a player as there are things to reward them for. They can be related to cosmetics, story, ways to play the game more efficiently, or entirely new ways to play it, and so much more. And one day I'd love to do a longer, more in-depth video on all of these things, but today I just want to do a quick-fire little examination of a specific set of rewards which I thought were really well designed. So I've been playing a pretty intense amount of Valheim, which got me thinking about all this in the first place. In survival crafting games like Valheim, and to use the most high-profile comparison, Minecraft, one of the core gameplay loops is often about exploring, acquiring stuff, and then being rewarded for the acquisition of said stuff by the ability to make new stuff, often better stuff than you had before. And we can sort of split the types of rewards you get for acquiring stuff into 2 main categories. The first type is the efficiency, or numbers upgrade. You progress to a new tier of materials, and you're rewarded with the ability to perform core loop tasks more safely or more quickly. Your axe chops down trees faster, your weapons do more damage, your armor helps you tank a few extra hits, you get the idea. But the second type is a bit more interesting, the gameplay reward. These are rewards which unlock entirely new systems or ways to play the game, new tools, new things, and new areas. These sorts of games often provide both types of reward at every major resource tier. In Minecraft, for instance, once you've gathered your first iron, the first type would be if you upgraded your primary tools or made some armor. But when I reach iron, I usually build something from the second category, something which blows the game wide open, a bucket. Though it might be kinda innocuous and I may have implied a greater impact than it actually has, the bucket does in fact open up a ton of possibilities and conveniences, and any seasoned spelunker will know exactly how and why this thing is valuable. Compared to stuff like armor, it doesn't improve any stats or numbers, but it does let you do things you couldn't do before, like make infinite water sources or water ladders. Both types fulfill different purposes. Type 1 gives a feeling of progression and empowerment. Those simple upgrades to numbers might not sound so exciting. When they have a measurable and noticeable effect on something you spend a lot of time doing, they mean a lot more. I might make a bucket first, but you can be damn sure I'll make a shiny new pickaxe right after. Type 2, meanwhile, has a variety of uses in design. It allows a game to open up naturally and pace out its content, as well as giving players a feeling of discovering new things. And both types of reward are very necessary in these sorts of games. Now that we've established that, let's return to Valheim, which is one of the best examples of the second category I've seen recently. Valheim is more or less Minecraft meets Breath of the Wild, as told by a group of Swedes who really liked Skyrim. And in this game, water's a surprisingly large obstacle. Near the start, before you've upgraded your stats or gotten stamina boosting food, even small rivers can be problematic, and larger bodies of water are major barriers to traversal and exploration. The only tool you have to handle water near the start is a rinky-dink raft, which will float across a river just fine, but isn't quite up to a voyage across the high seas. This is a state of affairs you're going to have to grow comfortable with as well, because before you're able to do anything about it, you need bronze. And to get that, you need to do, well, quite a lot. To be specific, you're going to need to find and kill the first boss, gather enough food gear and equipment to take on the second major biome, locate 2 different types of ore, successfully mine them in sufficient quantities without getting squashed by a troll, obtain a large number of Surtling cores from these scary little dungeons scattered about the place, craft and set up a smelting operation, and gather a whole bunch of other resources. This can take a while. But once you have gone to all this effort, you'll have earned quite a bit. The resulting bronze will let you access efficiency and stat upgrades and new weapons and tools, but also something which, when I saw it, was far more exciting to me than any of those could have been. The Carve. The Carve, the first genuinely seaworthy vessel you can make in this game, represents a huge expansion. of gameplay, of possibilities, and a theme as well. Exploration via water is now not only possible, but preferable, and taking advantage of this involves getting to grips with systems that were technically present while using the raft, but not really accessible. I can easily understand why it'd be boring and pernickety to some, but to me, crashing through the waves, adjusting my sails to catch the wind, and maneuvering through rivers and coastal regions peppered with dangerous rocks and sandbanks was magical, and made all the more so by how incredible the water and weather systems of this game are. Access to something you want, the ability to explore, locked behind mastery of a new system, now that's a reward. But it's even better than that. I mentioned that it's a thematic expansion. Being able to live out the fantasy of being Vikings in a boat venturing across waters to raid and hunt and loot ain't nothing in a game that's largely about the fantasy of being Vikings. And beyond even that, the card provides a very unique solution to a problem the game's presented you. You see, metal is a little bit inconvenient in Valheim. It's completely necessary to craft and upgrade a huge number of vital items, but it's also incredibly heavy. Some items you'd want to craft soon after unlocking the ability to smelt bronze might require about 20 pieces of copper and 10 of tin, and that alone will exceed the starting carry weight assuming you're carrying even basic tools and equipment. Worse, pure metal can't be transported through portals, so you can't just set up a portal near a supply of ore and ferry it quickly to your base. You have to travel the hard way every time. And finally, you'll need it in pretty substantial quantities. So it's really hard to mine ore quickly and enough of it. You can make a cart to help, and that'll solve the issue in some situations, but it's really awkward in others. So when that doesn't work, what do you do? The carve provides a solution. You see, the boat has its own small inventory, and crucially it doesn't have a weight limit, so you can use it to help with mining expeditions. You can sail it to the appropriate biome, and instead of being faced with a long run back to base when you near your carry limit, which will happen quite quickly, you can instead just deposit your ore in the carve and keep going. Then, after you've filled it up, you can sail back to your base with a hold full of valuable metals all obtained in one trip, and unlike the cart, the boat will actually stay safe and not be a huge pain in the ass to get back. We could end here. Already the carve has shown itself to be a really cool and exciting reward for reaching the bronze tier, but what really pushes it over the edge for me is how they follow up on it. It might take a while after this point, but one of the next important resources you'll gain access to will be iron, and once you've gotten enough of it, you'll be able to make the real deal, a longship. At first glance, the longship is bigger and better in every way than the carve. It's a lot faster, and the hold is almost 5 times as large as the carve's, making it orders of magnitude better for long-reaching resource gathering expeditions. It's more durable too, meaning you're a lot safer from But what's so interesting about the design here is how unlocking the longship doesn't actually invalidate the carve. While the longship does certain things way better, there's still niches for the carve to fill. For a start, the resources required for a longship are valuable, hard to locate, and dangerous to gather, at least at the point that you can begin doing so. But even in pure gameplay terms, the carve's status as a smaller, more maneuverable ship is very meaningful. Though sailing across the open sea is about as simple as lining your sails up with the wind and pointing yourself in the right direction, coasts and rivers are an entirely different game. The water rises and falls, hiding and revealing dangerous rocks and sandbanks. Obstacles can be packed quite closely together, and rivers can be narrow and treacherous. For situations where you need to navigate these sorts of spaces, which could be quite often, the longship is virtually unusable, while a carve is perfect. Even a lot later into the game, both have their uses and feel meaningfully distinct. Designing rewards that feel really meaningful to a player is hard, but the guys at Iron Gate did a phenomenal job with the carve and the longship. They collectively open up new possibilities and systems, as well as natural solutions to various problems. They let you more deeply fulfill the fantasy of Valheim and engage with the richness of its world. And they offer a genuine progression across different parts of the game, where the second doesn't invalidate what came before, but expands on it. Taken all together, that is some good design.